Hello, music fans. You're watching Death by Unicorn and my series called What's New 2024, where I talk about new music that came out in metal, rock, and prog. Today I'm going to talk about 5 new releases that came out on May 31st, 2024. Then I'll talk about them in my order of preference, starting with Invent Animate and their album Heavener Definitive. This is actually just a deluxe version. Um, of their album from 2023. This is an American band. They play progressive metalcore, kind of djent, a little bit of ambient influences. And this is an excellent album. However, it's excellent because the album for 2023 is excellent. They released the same album again, basically, the same album as last year, but with 4 new tracks. And I don't really like when bands do this. Of course, it's great to listen to this from start to finish, but um, it was already great last year. And if the songs that they added on this album were good enough to be on the album, they should have just put them on the album when it came out last year. And if they weren't written when it came out, they should probably just put them on their next album, or if they don't fit on their next album, save them for later or do an EP or something. But their music is excellent, so I can't be too mad about hearing this. I do really enjoy this album, Heavener by Invent Animate. So it was fun to listen to it again and just to hear there's 3 new tracks just appended to the end, as well as like a alternate version of one of the tracks. And everything's excellent here. It's a pet peeve of mine when bands do this, but I can't fault them because the music's still really good. Next, I want to talk about Sykofant and their self-titled debut album. This is a Norwegian band, and I did a full album review for their album on my channel. It's progressive rock with jazz fusion, pop, funk, and surf influences. Another excellent release. I'm really happy they reached out to me to ask me to review the album on my channel. Definitely check out that full review to get my full thoughts, but I could just say it's truly excellent. It'll be a contender for my top 50 albums of the year, and will almost certainly be in my top 10 debut albums of the year. They released 4 singles from the album ahead of time. They're all great tracks to start with to get a feel for the band. In particular, check out Between Air and Water and Monuments of Old. They're perfect songs to introduce you to their style. They remind me a bit of Rush. In general, a lot of the bass playing reminds me of Geddy Lee, which is great because Geddy Lee is one of my favorite bassists. The drums sound like Led Zeppelin. The vocals are kind of not so much like Rush or Led Zeppelin. They're kind of more like raspy and lower, and they kind of remind me of Baroness. And the guitars sound like Rush as well. If you want a track to check out here, I guess if I have to pick a favorite, it's Between Air and Water. So check that out. That's Sycophant and their self-titled album. Next up, I want to talk about another excellent debut album that came out on May 31st. That's Age of Distraction with their album, The Game of Whispers. This is a band from the UK. It's a progressive metal band, but it's got some alternative rock influences in there. And it's really great to hear another solid prog metal debut album this year. There's always been so many great ones. I enjoyed the song The Point of No Return. That's a pretty wild song. I love the intro riff there in 7 beats per bar. The rhythm and the pattern is constant, but the notes just keep changing slightly to imply some different chords. And they don't use just all your typical chords. They're using some nice, cool chords here. Definitely a cool band. Interested to see what they do next. That's Age of Distraction and A Game of Whispers. Now we'll move on from my excellent tier down to my very good tier. And here I have Marjana Semkina and her album Sirin. This is the second album by this Russian artist. It's progressive rock. It's got some pop, some post-rock, some dark ambient and folk influences. Marjana Semkina is a Russian-born singer and songwriter. She's based in the UK since 2020. She's released music as a solo artist and as a member and co-founder of the bands I Am the Morning and Mare. This is their second solo album, though. I think fans of White Moth Black Butterfly, the progressive pop act that features Dan Tompkins of Tesseract, will like this because it has that similar ambient, atmospheric, progressive pop rock sound. Marjana does a great job with her vocals and her songwriting here. My favorite track on first listen was Anything But Sleep. And that was probably my favorite because it features Jim Gray from Caligula's Horse as a guest vocalist, and he does a great job as always. I'm a big Caligula's Horse fan, so that was an easy standout on first listen. If that sounds interesting to you, check out Marjana Semkina and her album Sirin. And last album I want to talk about today is Bad Omens and their album Concrete Jungle, the OST or the original soundtrack. This is the fourth album by this American metalcore band. Now, this is one of those metalcore albums that's very heavily influenced by pop as well as alternative and electronic music. Sumerian co-founder and CEO Ash Avildsen, is that how you say his name? He clarified in a comment on the band's Instagram that OST stands for Official Soundtrack. Concrete Jungle is the band's original comic book series and graphic novel out on Sumerian Comics. I think it's cool and ambitious that they have a whole comic book series and graphic novel behind this release. Even though that's not really my thing, I probably wouldn't dive that deep into the lore. But it's cool for people that really want to get into this album. This album I'm just going to put in my good tier. It doesn't quite make it up to very good. Fans of newer Bring Me the Horizon and Architects music should like this because it is that really pop heavy metal core. It's got a big emphasis on catchy vocal hooks and melodies to make it accessible to the masses, but there is enough heaviness and breakdowns to appeal to metal fans. But for me, I just think it leans too far towards the pop for my taste. I wanted a bit more heaviness and some big guitar riffs here. But I'm sure a lot of people will really like this album from Bad Omens. I can acknowledge it's good and well made, but I likely won't return to it. My favorite track on first listen was VAN featuring Poppy, which stands for Violence Against Nature. And that's it for my initial first impressions on these 5 albums that came out recently. What do you think of these albums? Let me know down in the comments. And is there anything else that came out recently that you think I'll enjoy? Also let me know. And until next time, peace out.